All you need to understand the market today in a nutshell. This is Market Today by N3WS.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to dive into today's headlines with us?
Absolutely. Some really interesting stuff happening.
We're talking potential economic storms, billion-dollar snack deals.
And Warren Buffett, always up to something, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's start with the one that's got everyone on edge. This dock worker strike on the East Coast. 45,000 members of the International Longshoremen's Association, first major action since '77. This is a big deal.
Huge. And it goes way beyond just wages, though, of course, that's a major factor.
Right, it's about the future, isn't it? Automation, job security.
Exactly. These workers are on the front lines of that tech revolution, and their anxieties, they resonate way beyond just shipping docks, you know?
And the economic impact could be massive. We're talking JP Morgan estimates $5 billion with a B lost every single day this goes on.
Imagine the entire GDP of some countries just gone every 24 hours.
So beyond just like shipping delays, what are the real world effects? What should people be prepared for?
Remember those supply chain issues we were dealing with? Empty shelves, price hikes? This could be that, but on steroids. We're already seeing companies, Maersk, one of the big shipping lines, adding surcharges up to $3,780 per container.
And those costs, they inevitably trickle down to us, the consumers.
Especially with the holidays coming up, it's a perfect storm.
It really highlights how interconnected everything is globally. One hiccup in a U.S. port, and suddenly the whole system feels it.
Exactly. This is one to watch, for sure. Speaking of things to watch, PepsiCo buying a tortilla company for over $1 billion.
Right, Siete Family Foods. Sounds like someone's got a serious chip and salsa craving, but there's got to be more to it than that.
Oh, absolutely. This is PepsiCo. They're playing 3D chess while the rest of us are working on tic-tac-toe.
So what's the strategy here? Unpack this for us.
2 words. Health and heritage. Siete's whole thing is healthier takes on Mexican-American food. PepsiCo's tapping into that better-for-you market, but also
The growing buying power of multicultural consumers.
you got it. Siete's story, it's a family business started by 7 family members focused on healthy eating. It resonates.
Yeah, authenticity is huge these days. People want to connect with brands on a deeper level. And this story, it's got that in spades.
Speaking of stories, let's talk about Warren Buffett, shall we? The Oracle of Omaha, up to his usual tricks.
Buying up the rest of that stake in Berkshire Hathaway's utility company. Seems pretty standard for him.
But here's where it gets interesting. Part of the deal is in Berkshire Hathaway stock, right? But the value of that stock, tied to the utility company's share price, which isn't public knowledge.
So we're talking about a secret price tag. That's next level finance right there. How are analysts supposed to even make sense of this?
They're digging into old deals, trying to find any hints, anything to understand Buffett's logic.
It's like financial detective work. But here's the other thing. Hasn't Buffett been a little iffy on utilities lately? Why double down on a sector he seems uncertain about?
Right. It's a good question. Some think he's eyeing the renewable energy angle. Utilities are going to be vital in that transition.
So maybe he's not just buying a utility company, he's buying into the future of energy itself. Typical Buffett, thinking decades ahead.
Or it could be something else entirely. That's the thing about the Oracle. He keeps us guessing. And while we're on the topic of the future, this whole AI race is heating up, isn't it? OpenAI, the folks behind ChatGPT, they're making moves with these new tools for building AI voice assistants.
So, like, taking Siri and Alexa and all those to a whole new level, I mean, that's exciting, but also kind of creepy, right? Like those sci-fi movies where the machines take over.
Well, we're not quite at Skynet levels yet, but it's definitely a big leap. Think about it. Desktops, laptops, smartphones, voice is becoming the next big computing platform.
That's true when you say it like that. We are talking to our devices more and more these days. So these new OpenAI tools, how do they, like, speed up this whole voice-controlled future thing?
Imagine, instead of needing a whole team of developers writing complex code to build, say, a really advanced voice assistant, now they can do it with much simpler instructions. OpenAI has basically streamlined the process, made it easier for everyone.
So, like a universal translator, but for AI. That's going to be huge for developers.
Huge, especially smaller companies that don't have the resources of a Google. It levels the playing field and should speed up innovation.
Okay, that's cool. But for those of us who aren't, coding whizzes, what's the big takeaway? How will this actually change things?
Think about interacting with technology in a much more intuitive way. Your voice assistant, it won't just understand your words, but also the context, what you're doing, even what you're looking at. Imagine showing your device a recipe and saying, hey, I've got leftover chicken, what can I make?
Okay, now that's pretty cool. Sign me up for that. But let's shift gears a bit. Not all the news in tech land is positive, right? Samsung's making some pretty substantial job cuts.
Yeah, up to 10% of their workforce in some areas. It's a sign of the times, really. The tech sector is facing some headwinds. Competition is fierce, especially in areas like memory chips and AI.
So is this Samsung struggling to keep up? Or are they, like, strategically streamlining?
Probably a bit of both. The tech landscape changes so quickly, companies have to be agile, ready to pivot. These cuts, they could be painful, but they might also be essential for Samsung to stay competitive.
So positioning themselves for the next big thing, whatever that might be, it's like a high-stakes game of chess, with everyone trying to anticipate the next move.
Exactly, and sometimes even the biggest players have to make tough choices to stay in the game. Speaking of tough choices, our last story takes us inside Apple. You know, that company known for sleek design and a fiercely loyal customer base.
Yeah, what about them?
Well, they're facing some heat from the National Labor Relations Board, the NLRB. It's a classic David and Goliath situation.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What's the NLRB accusing Apple of?
Basically, of having workplace rules that prevent their employees from speaking out, organizing, even advocating for better working conditions.
So Apple's trying to silence its own workforce.
Well, the NLRB is arguing that Apple's confidentiality policies, their social media guidelines, they're overly restrictive.
Yeah.
That they're being used to prevent employees from speaking honestly about their experiences, whether it's wages, safety concerns, you name it.
It's like this tension between a company wanting to control its image and the rights of its workers to speak freely.
Precisely. In this case, it could have huge ripple effects because it really highlights the growing tension we're seeing between tech giants and their workers, particularly when it comes to things like labor organizing.
And this isn't just an Apple thing, is it?
Not at all. We're seeing a surge in labor activism across the entire tech sector. Job security, wages, the ethical implications of the technology they're building. These are all major concerns for tech workers today.
So you've got this perfect storm brewing, workers demanding fairness, and the tech industry itself going through some growing pains.
Exactly. The pandemic, the rise of remote work, the gig economy, all of these have shifted the power dynamics between employers and employees, especially in tech. This Apple case is a powerful reminder that behind all the gadgets and billion-dollar valuations, there are real people with real concerns, and those voices deserve to be heard.
It really puts things in perspective, doesn't it? For all the talk about innovation and changing the world, these tech companies, they're still employers.
Absolutely. And their workers, they deserve a seat at the table just like in any other industry.
And the outcome of this Apple case, it could have huge implications for labor rights across the tech world. It's fascinating to see it all unfold.
It is. It shows how these issues, they touch every corner of the economy, every industry, just like those dock workers we talked about, right? Fighting for their jobs, their future.
It's all connected, isn't it? From shipping containers to snack foods, even the moves of a financial titan like Buffett. Today's deep dive has shown us that the world of finance, it's anything but predictable.
Right. It's this constantly moving target. Economic forces, social trends, technology, they're all intertwined. And understanding these connections, it's more important than ever if you want to really make sense of it all.
That's what we try to do here,
Yeah.
right? Connect those dots, see the bigger picture, because it's easy to get lost in the day-to-day headlines. But when you take a step back, look for those patterns, that's when it gets really interesting.
Exactly. It's about asking those tough questions, challenging assumptions, and being open to the unexpected. That's where the real insights are.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So, next time you're scrolling through those headlines, remember, there's always more to the story. Keep digging, stay curious, and we'll see you next time for another deep dive.